Hello, everyone. We're going to talk a great deal about the leadership that exists in both the House and the Senate, especially in the House of Representatives, as you can see with the notes that are in front of you. The congressional leadership is incredibly important. And since the House of Representatives is based on population, it's kind of fun to look at how our population has shifted. So let's look at the census that we have seen. Let's start with the census of 1790. That would be our very first census. In the House of Representatives, Virginia was the top state, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, with New York and North Carolina. Okay, 100 years later, okay, because we don't want to look at every 10 years, we'd be here forever. We notice that New York is the most populated state, then Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, but Missouri jumps in there. In 1990, 100 years later, notice how our population has again shifted. California, New York, and now some states that have never appeared on the list, or California as well, Texas, Florida, and Pennsylvania. Notice that New York has been at every single one. In the year 2000, the population again is kind of shifting. California has jumped up while New York went down, and Florida remains steady but growing, and Pennsylvania and Illinois tie. I'm going to throw one more at you that I had to kind of sneak in here over here, is that 2010, California, Texas, New York, Florida again grew, New York going down, and Pennsylvania and Illinois both go down by one. So if you'll notice that on the states that exist on all five lists, New York has never come off of it. And so New York remains one of our most populated states and our most stable of states. Even though it has grown, fluctuated, it is still very stable. California jumps in between the 1890s and the 1990s. And of course, we could have looked at like the 1900s and we would have seen California jump on there as well. So it is interesting to see what happens with our population. The population of the United States is definitely moving south and for the most part west. There is an anomaly that Washington State, Oregon, and Northern California have really grown as well. So taking out your notes, we want to talk a little bit about the importance of a quorum. A quorum is 50% plus one, and everything that is needed to be done has to be done if there is a quorum. In the Senate, a quorum would be 51%, and in the House of Representatives, it would be 218%. So looking at your 5-2 notes, let's look at congressional leadership. The most powerful person in Congress is the Speaker of the House. He is elected with a public election through the House of Representatives, the 435 members, and the person that becomes the Speaker of the House, through tradition, says that that person is going to be a part of the majority party. He is third in line for the presidency. That's counting the president as one, the vice president is two, and then he would be three. Okay. Um, he is the head of the legislative branch. Some of the things that he is responsible for, as you can see with the highlighted, is to assign bills to committee. He has to be well versed in parliamentary control, and he controls and presides order over the House of Representatives. All bills that come out of the House of Representatives need to be signed by Mr. Ryan, and he is considered the most influential member in the legislative branch. Now, he is one of the two officers that are required by the Constitution. One is the vice president who presides over the Senate, and the Constitution says that we have to have a Speaker of the House. The Constitution, however, does not tell us how to choose a Speaker of the House. For all the Constitution says, I could be elected as Speaker of the House. But the very first Speaker of the House was chosen from one of the members, from within the members, kind of a parliamentary form of government. And we've just kept that tradition ever since. Okay? The next couple of leaders that we're going to talk about are political leaders, meaning that they have more to do with the congressional political parties than they necessarily have to do with running the House of Representatives. Those leaders are called the majority and minority floor leaders, okay? What that means is that the majority floor leader or the majority leader is in charge of the party that has the majority in it. In our case right now, the Republican Party. And the minority leader is in charge of the Democrats or whatever party is not in control. So they are strategists. Okay? And by strategists or strategists, however you want to pronounce it, it means that they have a plan for the political party like the Republicans, and it is their responsibility to try to carry out that plan. They help steer and route the bills through the committee. So the head of the Republican Party is going to try to figure out the route and the best plan for the Republicans, while the Democrats are going to choose the best route and plan for the Democrats. Now, the leaders at this time are Senator Mitch McConnell, who is the head of the Republican Party, and Senator Harry Reid, who is the minority floor leader in the Senate. Kevin McCarthy is the Republican floor leader in the House, and Nancy Pelosi is the Democratic floor leader in the House. They are assisted by the people that are called the whips. The whips are, there are many, many whips. You have majority whips, which of course are the Republican parties, and you have the minority whips. I call them gophers because they go for votes. They go for officials. If I were you, I would draw like little legs on things because that's what the whips are, is that they are the legs behind the party. They assist the floor leaders, and there's usually quite a few of them. Last I checked, I think that there's like over 10 in the Democratic Party. It might be even more than that, and almost 15 in the Republican Party. What their job is to find out how everybody is planning to vote, kind of tell the floor leaders, and if necessary, exert and persuade them to vote along party lines. In other words, the whips are kind of like the party henchmen. You know, how are you going to vote? Are you going to vote with the Republican Party? Are you going to vote against the Democratic Party? And so on. And they try to guarantee that those votes will be present on key bills. Where does the word whips come from? It's actually a British term that refers to hunters when they would go on fox hunts. And so the term whip comes from a long line of English politics. Okay. Now, a couple of people that we want to talk about are not people that necessarily have anything to do with the lawmaking process. However, they're very important to the legislative process. One of them is called the clerk of the House. I call this person Ruth. They are in charge of all the information that is printed, typed, distributed, posted in the clerk of the House. They are the official notary public of the House of Representatives, which means anything that comes out of the House is going to have an official stamp. The clerk of the House has one of the largest budgets and staffs possible. There's over 9 departments and 290 employees. They print the Congressional quarterly, and really look at what this one is. They are responsible for the day-to-day responsibilities of the House of Representatives. In other words, you know, like I've said before, we can kind of handle it when Mr. Rang is gone. We really struggle when Ruth is gone. Presently, the clerk of the House is Karen Haas, and she is only the 34th clerk in 230 members of Congress. So it's a very prestigious position. It does not influence the legislative process. Her job is not to see how people vote. Her job is simply to make sure that the information gets there, and that when we go to the website, that we see the information as the public. Another non-legislative position is what is called the Sergeant of Arms. The Sergeant of Arms is basically the Chief Security Officer of the chamber. He is the only one that supposedly is legally allowed to carry a gun. He is in charge of the security of the Congress. So when we go through metal detectors and stuff, that is part of the Sergeant of Arms. He deals with funerals, inaugurations, congressional ceremonies, and so on. So the recent inauguration of President Trump, the Sergeant of Arms is the one that make sure that the security is handled. It is an honorary position, but it is a very important position. Now, in the House of Representatives, there is a parliamentarian. This is an appointed position, but it's very influential. It is going to help the Speaker of the House to determine which is the best or worst way to steer a bill through Congress. So, for example, let's say that there is this idea about adding alternative energies to increase the funding for wind control. Obviously, a committee on energy might be the best place to put it. But the people in the congressmen that are in that committee might not be very favorable to it. So the parliamentarian who is in favor of this bill might suggest, hey, let's put it through the agricultural committee because a lot of windmills go on agricultural land. And their committee might be a little bit more favorable in having it passed. So they're congressman's coach. I kind of compare it to in the movie Aladdin. You have Jafar, who is this kind of behind the scenes evil dude, I know, but kind of behind the scenes of the Sultan. The parliamentarian is kind of like that. People don't know who he or she is, but he is extremely powerful. The parliamentarian is definitely way more powerful in the House of Representatives than in the Senate, simply because the House has more rules. Remember, why does the House have more rules? Because it has more people. Okay. Oh, I need to change that because it's no longer Joe Biden from Pennsylvania. It's Michael Pence from Illinois, Indiana. There we go. Remember that the president of the Senate is also constitutionally required. He doesn't have any powers. He can only vote if there's a tie. And he's basically there to represent the executive branch. The person that actually is in charge of the Senate is the president pro tem. I know that word looks like temporary, and that's kind of what it means. It means when the president of the Senate is not there, the president pro tem takes over. He is the senior member of the Republican Party or the senior member of the majority party. What does that mean? That means he is the longest serving senator in the Senate. Okay? Because this person is actually a member of the Senate, he is allowed to vote and debate. It's not like he is the vice president where he's just like a figurehead. This is an actual member of the Senate. And I believe, and you know what, I haven't looked this up, but I believe that the current president pro tem is Orrin Hatch. Okay. That is the last thing that I have. So I hope you fill those out because on Monday we are going to have another little dinner party where you will be assigned different things to look up. All right, I will see you in class soon. Thanks a lot.